Hello and welcome to Colony Drop. My name is Brian,
And I'm Isaac.
and this is a podcast about the long-running anime series Mobile Suit Gundam.
It's a podcast that covers everything from the models to the anime to the movies to the manga and the upcoming live-action movie. Oh, yeah.
Dun dun dun.
Today, we're talking about everything kind of Gundam movie, but mainly news update, what we know about the movie. It's not a lot, but it's a lot. And then also our dream cast, or at least who would be pretty good in the roles, we think. As luck would have it, though, Brian, it turns out we both read a little bit about the movie. There's not a ton of info out, but we read some snippet details. What'd you read up on?
Yeah, so last week we talked about the movie, and back then we did say there's really not much to know about it. Not much has been formally announced, but in doing a little research about who I would cast for these people, you're right. There has been a few things mentioned that we can read into a little bit to maybe assume some information. So why don't we take turns with revealing new info?
Let's do it.
And we'll see where that gets us. So the first thing that I saw was that a lot of people are convinced that the live action film is going to be the sequel to Unicorn that was announced. And they think this is because and hold your thoughts.
All right, hang on.
They think this because in that reveal of the UC Next 100 project, Gundam UC2 or Unicorn 2 was listed as an overseas drama, and basically the only overseas drama that is being filmed at the moment for Gundam is the live action film. In addition to that, there was a Gundam Unicorn Easter egg in Pacific Rim 2. One of the Jaegers gets like punched or something, and it falls and it lands in front of a Anaheim Electronics building, and there's a Gundam Unicorn statue like out in front of the building, which is it's kind of a neat Easter egg.
Sure.
And Pacific Rim, the franchise, as we talked about last week, is made by Legendary, and they're the ones who are producing the Gundam live action movie. So that's one of the bigger things that I read into. What's your first thought on that hot take?
Number one, my question for you is, how credible is this information? Like, is confidence high, or is this sort of more, kind of conjecture, not so much like, pretty solid information?
Well, I'll be honest. I'd have to go back and look. I mean, I read it on multiple different threads in Reddit, so I think it's legit. I think that reveal board for UC Next 100, I think it was mostly in Japanese, if I remember right. So it's not like I can really read it myself.
Right.
And that would have been probably where it would have said overseas drama. So.
Okay. So live action movie with American actors by an American studio that is a direct sequel to Gundam Unicorn. I think that's, boy, is that a tall order. I mean, it's going to have to explain so much, or hope that the audience members, the target audience, knows enough going into it to understand what's happening. And then it has to sort of wrap up itself as a story. Wow, that's a tall order.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. From a financial perspective, that just seems like a terrible bet to take, because while I may have watched Unicorn, you may have watched Unicorn, and everyone on the internet who goes into a Gundam forum may have watched Unicorn, I don't think the average Joe who they want to come to this movie has any idea what a Gundam is, or two, what Gundam Unicorn is, frankly. So yeah, there's just so much baggage there. Not that I wouldn't necessarily like to see it, but that just seems really odd to me to make your first real foray into the American blockbuster film market to be a sequel to an OVA series that was the sequel to a movie and 3 50-episode TV series from the 70s and 80s. I just don't see it.
You know what? Okay. I'm a big fan of Star Wars. I'd say this is comparable to there not being any Star Wars movies, but Star Wars only existing as like Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels and and Resistance, those shows on like Disney Plus.
Yep.
And then they're announcing that they'll be making a live action Star Wars movie, and it'll be a direct sequel to Clone Wars.
Yep.
Like the fans that are already on board would be like, yeah, that's pretty awesome. We'll know exactly what's going on. But like, everybody else who has no idea what's been happening in that storyline, they'll be like, oh, what's a republic? Yeah, people that had no idea about Star Wars would be like, what's a republic? What's an empire? The Sith? What? There's a force and then lightsabers. What's all this? We don't really know. It looks cool, but we're confused. We're lost. And I think that's a big risk of their plans to start right after Unicorn and just kind of throw people into it. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this will be like an opening crawl of A New Hope type situation where like we're decades into this war across space. Here are the good guys, here are the bad guys, and now the explosions are starting.
It would be a 3-hour opening crawl.
Oh god, yeah. We'll have to explain what a Lagrange point is, and
there'd be appendices,
little asterisk at the bottom of each screen.
Maybe they would hand out pamphlets before the film so that you could.
God,
it's like a signed reading.
That is a death knell for any movie where they have to like hand out documents. You know what movie did that though? Kind of failed in theaters was the 1984 version of like Dune, which was like directed by David Lynch. Yeah, because that book is so dense that they had to give pamphlets out, I think, at premieres and stuff to kind of like explain the jargon and like the lore, which is never good to give to an audience that has no idea what's going on.
Film is a show me, not tell me.
No, now's not the time to. Yeah. Oh boy. Well.
So yeah, I don't see it, but yeah, you're right. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe we're the crazy runs, but I think if they do that, it could be a great looking film, but it's just going to confuse the hell out of everyone.
It could be the last live action movie they make.
Yeah. I don't get it. So I would think they'd be crazy to do that, but who knows?
Yeah. We'll be there opening night, Brian, with like the 14 other fans decided to see the midnight showing. The length also. You need length in Gundam to really do it justice. And when you think you don't, you end up with like an F91 situation, Gundam 00 movie situation. Yeah. Shark's Counterattack, okay, that might be the best movie out of all of them, but at the same time, it does feel a bit rushed, I think.
Well, but it's also not a... Shark's Counterattack, though, it's also not necessarily a standalone feature, right? Because it's a sequel to 2.5 TV series.
Yeah, so you're right. It's... To an extent, I guess you're right. It's a final episode if you really want to look at it.
Yeah, but that's a good way to put it. It's a final episode.
You're not watching a movie; you're watching a final episode. But in this case, you're in this case, if that's the same formula or logic, you're watching a final episode to a series almost nobody's seen.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You're watching the final episode to the series that was a sequel to the final episode of the 3 series before. So I guess count us both on the disbeliever side.
You're stunned, sir. Sir, you're stunned in silence.
I read that and I was like, there's no way. Here's my opinion. If you want to count the Gundam UC2 reveal as pointing to the live action movie, and I know that Gundam UC was used as abbreviation for unicorn. My thought would be that UC2 doesn't necessarily mean Unicorn 2 in this context. Maybe it means an alternate UC, like the live action UC verse. Like, for example, like the Marvel Cinematic Universe is referred to as MCU, or whatever the DC one is called. They have an official acronym now as well. But UC2, if you want to say that's the live action film, well, there's, I'd say, 2 most likely options for the live action film. They're either going to adapt something from UC or they're going to do something completely original. I don't see them choosing one of the other universes other than UC to make that film of. I don't know. I didn't see anyone mention that, but that's my thought. I don't know what you think about that. But
my hope with the UC2 was that they would kind of draw a line in the sand and almost say, okay, everything before this line, you're going to see Zeon goons, all right? It's almost nonstop. Everything after this line, we're going to get a little experimental and do things different. Zanskar Empire, Crossbow Vanguard, Jupiter Empire, whatever. Now that I think about it, I feel like I kind of had fatigue watching some shows recently with Zeon. I was like, okay, these people never stop. every series we're going to see Zeons no matter what happens, no matter what Minerva says, we're going to always see Zeon causing problems. And I was thinking, this is almost repetitive and formulaic. I think I'm going to have to switch up watching UC with other series. And then I thought to myself, maybe they really don't need, like in UC2, to stop having Zeon show up in each series. Maybe the break will actually be, you watch another alternate universe or a different universe, like a Seed or, whatever that happened, Reconquista or Age. That's your break from Zeon. That's where they get to be experimental. But UC is going to be, very tried and true. Someone from the Federation, someone whose parents work for the Federation, finds a mobile suit,
which is a prototype, by the way.
Yeah, they find the mobile suit that's always under construction, right? They take it out and they just smash Zaku's, or what look like Zaku's, but have a different name, for the next 50 episodes. Don't forget, there's the enemy ace that's probably in red and a mask, or formulaic, but good too. But I can see a critique against Gundam being that it's formulaic. But moving on, now that we're in agreement, the piece of information I found, Brian, was that this will be a much more, let's say, a female cast film.
Oh, yes, I read that as well.
Yeah, we're going to get a lot more female pilots than normal. In fact, now that I think about it, in the original 0079, I don't think there were any female pilots.
Well, Sayla piloted the Gundam a few times, I think, or at least the gun cannon.
wait,
but not.
No. She's not a dedicated pilot, though.
Correct.
Wasn't she
correct. Not
she was on the ship. Okay, that doesn't count.
Well, didn't she also fly the G fighter? I think, right?
Maybe like to rescue somebody, right?
No, yeah. I think she was flying. Well, I don't remember. It's been a while since I watched. I know Slegger piloted the G fighter at the end, but didn't it have like multiple pilots and it split apart and all that? Crap to sell toys, like it turned into a tank and stuff.
I definitely remember the core fighter, which was just so pointless.
It was an escape pod.
Yeah. Well, you can also kind of zoom around too, I guess, for other
that's true.
missions or whatever.
Yeah. But, well, she's much more of a pilot in the novel. I don't know if you've ever read the novel. There is a translated version that you could buy. I think they released it in like the mid 2000s or so. It's a good read. The ending is totally different.
Wow.
Yeah, real quick, spoilers. Amuro and Sayla get together, and Amuro dies at the end. He gets shot by like one of Char's men. It's not a very theatrical death.
That's very Gundam. Just another grunt.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. So I liked it. I thought it was good.
Wait, does Char live? In the
novel? I don't remember. I think I probably read it 13 years ago or so.
Okay.
So it's been a while, but it's very different. But the point is, in that novel, I think Sayla is more what Tomino probably originally envisioned for her. So much bigger role. Because if you think about it, it would make sense that she'd be around in Zeta Gundam, and she kind of disappears in the show. I forget the exact reason why she wasn't in Zeta Gundam. I think maybe it's had something to do with like her voice actress couldn't do it, and so instead they had to use Beltachica, and then.
I mean, in her defense, she kind of she's a doctor. She's there to help people. I don't think she wanted to be part of another war. She kind of got handcuffed and dragged along into the whole 1-year war anyways.
Right. But like that's much more dramatic, right? If she would side with, if you have the sister of Char siding with Amuro, potentially falling in love with her, et cetera, et cetera. So imagine if Char's counterattack was, this is my dream redo of Char's counterattack, where it's Amuro, Sayla, and Judo against Char, Camille, and Haman or someone.
Wow, we're like destroying the timeline here. Yeah, so much.
Well, hardly anyone watches Double Zeta anyway. I mean,
yeah. Well, it's kind of skippable, right? But I digress.
Yeah, way off topic. Anyway, and spoilers.
Back to the rumors. I think that's pretty great that there'll be more female pilots. Right now, there's just such a push and awareness to make casting much more diverse. So we should not only expect more female pilots in the show, if that's what they're planning on doing, that we should also expect, more ethnic diversity. But Gundam was already pretty ethnically diverse. Both Zeon and the Federation side, there's people of all kinds of different appearances.
We should probably just quote what was actually said. So I think this came from, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is where I saw it. The president of Sunrise, Miyako Miyakawa Yasuo.
Yep. That's it.
He said this at AX or Anime Expo 2018 in an interview with Weekly Playboy, which little confused about that, but he said we are also aware of the cultural movement shaking the U.S. these days. As such, we are looking into how the presence of Gundam's many female characters can be enhanced in this live action film. The live action movie will not be one about soldiers engaged in heroic actions. Instead, it will probably be a film based on normal people in an extraordinary context while remaining faithful to the basic principles of Gundam.
There's a lot to read in there.
There is. So
right.
on the female side, I think Sayla is the perfect fit, assuming that they're going to do 0079. If you elevate Sayla, she's like a third lead.
Yeah, pretty much. Actually, she's the only female lead on the Federation's side, right? Who else could it be?
I mean, you could argue that Mirai and Frau Bo.
Okay, you're right. I could see Frau Bo working just because of her relationship with Amuro also.
Right, but in a film, you probably don't have too much time, so they might have to combine Sayla and Frau Bo.
I could see that happening. They're friends, and then she becomes the medic for the ship or something. Okay, so I could see that working. And but as far as like regular people that he said, when I read that initially, his exact words being a film based on normal people in extraordinary context. Did you take that to mean kind of how in 0079 they're all civilians that pretty much get, pressed into becoming the crew of a military ship? Or did you take that to mean this will be a very different retelling, almost from the eyes of civilians witnessing, the Gundams and the Zeon go at it?
I took it to be the former, basically exactly what you said. So in 0079, the crew of White Base is this. It was perfectly captured in that Toonami bumper, if you remember from years back, which is narrated by Peter Cullen. Those are amazing.
Yeah.
Sidebar, but I think in that bumper he calls them a crew of orphans and rejects, and that's pretty accurate, right? Because they're all. Yeah. I mean, they're all under 20-ish, and
their parents either died or booked it.
Right. Yeah.
Out of the colony.
Even Captain Bright, I think he's 19 in 0079.
Everyone older than him died, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Well, because the other captain died, and so he took over. So maybe they're in the military, but they are certainly inexperienced enough to where they're just normal people. They're kids basically.
But let me ask you this. Okay, let's assume they do go with a cast that's supposed to be like high school age. Does that mean they're going to try to market this to high school students because it'll be giant robots and sort of drama aboard a spaceship?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, what do you think that means from a rating perspective? Like, it's definitely not going to be R. I think this is going to be PG-13 for sure.
I'd absolutely go with PG-13 so they can get as much permissible space violence as they can and heavy themes. Yeah, we won't see an R rating.
Which I think is fine. I don't think we need an R rating here.
Yeah.
I read one other thing into that.
Do it.
I read it exactly like we just talked about, but I also could read that as it could just be an original timeline based on the same principles of the UC.
Oh, there you go.
Because when you're talking in live action film, people, especially film executives, they think in broad brushstrokes, high concept, right?
Yeah.
If you walk in and say, well, I want to do the sequel to Gundam Unicorn, which is an OVA series based on a movie, based on a TV series and 3 TV series, they're going to throw you out of the office. But if you tell them that you want a war film that happens to involve robots and that stars normal people thrust into extraordinary circumstances, that's more palatable, you can sell that.
There you go.
So after I read that, that's why I said earlier, I think this is either going to be an adaptation of Universal Century or just something original, maybe with the same tone of Universal Century.
Let me ask you this. Okay, going off this possibility that it's not Universal Century and it's something different, would you be okay if it's our timeline? If they say, like, I don't know, the opening crawl or the black screen at the beginning of the movie says, 2150 or something, and then or would you be like, no, not our timeline, not our universe, and then
I'm not necessarily opposed to that. I think because the Universal Century to me was just supposed to represent some time in the future of our timeline. Anyway, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah. Okay. Well, we'll see what happens, but maybe I'm just being overly nostalgic, but it'd be nice to see a first fraction of the story turned into a movie that we all know, because that's the original. It was such a good, well thought out story, and it's kind of referenceable just visually. The Zeon looked like the Germans from World War II, and the Federation clearly looks much more like a Western democracy's military, and it all goes through kind of the general beats of a war that we're used to, triumphing over the bad guys after they're initially winning and all that. So I think it's a good formula to follow, and trying something else too differently for a first attempt at a live action movie might not be wise, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I agree. I think also in those comments, a lot of people drew the conclusion that Sunrise has sort of full control over this movie in terms of story. I don't know if that was explicitly said, so I'm not sure if I believe that. But, if that's true, then the end product is kind of whatever they wanted. And
yeah.
So I don't know if that's comforting or worrisome or what. But if you believe they have full control and you were worried about some American company turning Gundam into a garbage franchise, then... I don't know that I don't know that that's a word.
Scene where the Gundam picks up the American flag and
oh, please no.
charges over the enemy.
Oh, geez. Interesting thing you just said. So the other thing I found out is that this is not the first attempt at a live action film. I'm not counting G Savior.
I was about to say, are you speaking of that which must not be named?
No, I'm not going to bring that up for at least another 2 episodes.
It is banished. Are you listening, listeners? There can be no discussion. I don't even want to see G Savior in the comments. Oh God, I said it.
It's just going to be 100 posts.
Yeah, I'll put $20 in the jar.
Yeah. So apparently there's a great article at Anime News Network that discusses an attempt to bring a live action Gundam film to America in 1983, which is really early. The script was written by a guy named Chip Proser. I'm probably not saying his name right, but he...
That sounds like someone from Gundam. That sounds like a gunner on the white bee. Hey, Closer, you got to watch 12 o'clock.
He's friends with Slugger Law and
exactly, yeah.
Raise the Barrel. Anyway, I'll put the link in the show notes so people can go read it. It's a really good article. It has a lot of art, like a lot of concept art from the film, or the failed film.
Chip, if you're alive, reach out to us so we can discuss.
We want to know.
We'd love to have you on the podcast.
But basically, I'll hit some of the highlights. So Chip, I don't really know anything about him, but based on the article, he's most famous for rewriting Top Gun. Yeah, and the concept art was done by Sid Mead. And so if you've watched Turn A Gundam, he was the guy who designed the Turn A Gundam. It has the weird upside down V-fin, or it looks like a mustache. He did a painting for one of the opening scenes, and it was going to be the Zaku's infiltrating the colony, just like in the first episode of the original Mobile Suit Gundam. I like and that got me thinking, like, there's a reason why that's the opening in the first episode, right? That's such a great opening scene. It very much establishes exactly what the conflict is. It reminds me of the opening scene to the original Star Wars, where you have the small ship being followed by the big ship. Not that they're similar scenes, but that they both set the tone for what is about to happen very clearly.
Yeah, it's visually narrative without needing to say much to the audience.
So I would not be surprised, like if I was writing this film, the new one, that would probably be my opening scene too, because that makes a lot of sense. Anyway, some of the check out some of these differences. I think a lot of these will make you laugh. Again, this is 1983, so keep that in mind. The Zakus were called Zax or Zox. The production company wanted to use CGI for everything, for all the visual effects. So you can imagine how that 1983 CGI would look today.
It might become a cult classic. It might have been a cult classic.
It could have been Tron, right?
Oh God.
Yeah, some of the names were a little different. Amuro was Amaru. Shar was Shah, which is actually, as they point out in the article, that's much closer to how they pronounce his name in Japanese, right? They don't say.
Hang on 1 second. I'm noticing a pattern. He's just dropping off a letter of like a lot of names. He turned Zaku's into Zox by dropping the U. He turned Shar into Shah by just dropping the R.
Well, again, I mean, this is 1983, right? So they didn't have anything to rely on, right? There was nothing to refer to. Amaru and Shah, they were brothers.
Wow.
There was no Captain Bright, whoever the other captain is. I forget his name, but he never dies. So Captain Bright doesn't take over. The mobile suits are about 100 meters tall instead of the average 18 meters or even smaller later on.
Wow.
That's more like the size of Jaegers from Pacific Rim.
Yeah, that's skyscrapers.
Yeah, really big, yeah. And there's no Federation, no Zeon. Instead, the enemy is something called the Zeong with a G, kind of like the mobile suit. The Zeong corporate empire, which, spoiler alert, it ends up being that it's controlled by like an AI. Of course. It wasn't actually be controlled by like a human. There's no new types, but they do communicate telepathically with some like headset technology. Like an interesting thing to keep, but not just do it the way that it was originally. Anyway.
Yeah.
And then the Zax, or the Zox, I don't know how they would have pronounced it, have a normal cockpit, but the Gundam has something akin to the mobile trace system from G Gundam, which mimics, the pilot's movements, and they get this mesh suit on and blah blah blah. So quite different if Gundam would have arrived in 1983. But in the article you can see all the art, and in the Gundam and the Zaku's, they look fairly the same. They didn't try to change those too much. Obviously the plot very different.
That's a case of like kind of what could have been, I think, in a way. It sounds interesting though.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely a lot of work went into it, and the guy Chip, our pal Chip, he flew to Japan and met with Bandai Sunrise, whatever, for a week, and they gave him all this stuff, and they told him to go write it, and that's what he came up with. So, I guess if you'd only seen Gundam for a week, maybe it's not a bad take. I don't know. Again, 1983. Totally different than today. Sort of unfair to criticize it 40 years later.
Well, for all we know, it could have been maybe one of the greatest movies ever made.
Yeah. That said, I think to your point, the success of like something like the Marvel films, that has given Hollywood a reason to maybe respect the source material a little bit. So let's hope that this film skews a little bit more towards what we all know and love, I guess.
Yeah, hopefully they also take the time to kind of plan out a possible like path for the franchise, just map things out. They don't want to run into like a situation with, the DC universe, or have had problems with their whole sagas and subsequent episodes to their first movie.
Yeah, for sure. All right, should we get into the cast? Should we do the dream cast?
We should. Okay, Brian, you have just been selected as casting director.
All right.
For the Gundam movie. Let's start with who you'd want for. How about Amuro, the main character?
We'll go character by character. So if I was selected as casting director for this film, I might quit because this was really difficult.
Yeah.
Almost impossible, I'll say. So
it must be done.
I did this a few ways. I tried to cast it myself without looking at any other people's opinions.
Okay.
And then after I was done, I then went and looked at what other people had said. And most of the stuff, to be honest, was on Reddit. I couldn't find a whole lot of other people discussing this, really. The IMDb forums have been shut now for, I think, 2-3 years. Had those still been open, there probably would have been some people talking about it over there. But I guess I didn't look for hours. But anyway, a lot of my internet suggestions are basically from Reddit. And then I also asked one of our mutual friends to give me his picks. And he gave me some good ones, actually. So
wow.
One that I just think is perfect, and we'll be interesting to see what you get there. But anyway, let's go to Amuro first.
Do it.
So my pick, I looked for someone like this for a long time, and I arrived at I don't know that there is a good Amuro. I'll be upfront. I don't know there's a good Amuro or a good Char, to be honest with you. But for Amuro, I went with an actor named Asa Butterfield. He was the boy in the striped pajamas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in what's it called? What was that space movie where like he's the cadet? Oh, Ender's Game, wasn't he?
Oh yeah. I believe he was in Ender's Game. Yeah, exactly. So
you're gonna send him back to space.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I guess one other thing I should mention is I did look at the age of all the characters, like the canonical age in 0079, and Amuro's he's only 15.
Yeah.
So I think realistically we're probably going to see an actor in their early 20s. I'm going to say in general the 0079 cast, they're all really young. So I think for this movie they're probably all going to be aged up at least 5 years, maybe 10 years. So Asa Butterfield right now is 23. So that means if they make the movie the next 2 years, he'd be 25 worst case scenario, which is still young enough to pass for a 20-year-old in Hollywood.
I was about to say, you know what? I'm not sure that's too much of a concern because like every high school show, they're always putting like 20s and 30-year-old actors into the role of like high school students. So that's not an issue with casting. You're whatever age they decide that you're the age.
Yeah, within reason. I mean, you can't be 40 playing a 20-year-old, but
sure,
late 20s, you can play a 19-year-old. That happens a lot. One thing I want to talk about for Amuro, particularly because you mentioned diversity before. Amuro's ethnicity has never really been completely confirmed, but if you read into it a little bit, he's basically half Japanese and half some sort of white.
Yeah, I thought they. Oh, maybe I'm remembering wrong, but
They don't actually state it
yeah.
anywhere. I mean, basically what you have to know is that his father, Temrei, is Japanese,
Yeah.
but whether you read the origin manga, the white base lands in the Pacific coast somewhere between, Washington, California. And that's in that part of that story where Amuro goes back to his home and to see his mom. And so she lives there, and she's not Japanese, so she's American. And
Okay.
in another version of the story, I can't remember if it's in the anime or something else, or the original anime or something else, but his home is somewhere in like Canada. So he's basically either American, like half white, half American, Canadian, something in Japanese. So this would be the perfect.
I remember. Yeah, exactly.
So this would be the
Canadian Japanese. Yeah.
So this would be the perfect time to have, some sort of at least half Japanese actor take a leading role. There's been a big movement to get more Asian male leads in films.
Multiracial too, yeah.
Yeah. Particularly because I feel like Char's look is much more, you can't really deviate from, blonde man for Char. So I feel like
if the Zeons are stand-in for like Germany during World War II, Char is like the perfect poster boy for everything with their ideology.
Some other suggestions from Reddit. Some guy named Antipasto. He had some good suggestions. 2 14-year-old actors, Owen Vaccaro and Jacob Tremblay. I don't really know anything about them. It's kind of hard to research like child actors, but yeah, they're much younger, right? So if they were gonna pitch an actual 15-year-old Amuro, those might be good selections. A lot of people want Tom Holland, but he's already 25. He's also maybe too likable. I think Amuro needs to be a little bit whiny, a little bit brash. And probably one of the better suggestions I saw was for an actor named Ryan Potter. I think he is half Japanese. He starred in like Big Hero 6, I think. He's 24.
Like his voice, I guess?
Yeah, I think it was just his voice. Oh. And he's 24, so he's about the same age as Asa Butterfield, which was my pick. And then our mutual friend said Elijah Wood.
Oh, no. Oh, okay.
Now, Elijah Wood's obviously too old now, but maybe...
Come on. Yeah, that was...
years ago.
That was not a well thought out answer.
Yeah. So hit me with your Amuro, Isaac.
All right, we're on Amuro, so I'm gonna hit you with mine. I don't want to sound like. Let me preface this by saying I don't want to sound like I'm kind of on this actor's bandwagon or anything like that, because he's done a lot of work in recent memory. I think with his hair and his kind of gangly, nerdy type appearance that he can play, I think he'd be a pretty good fit for Amuro, the sort of reluctant Gundam pilot. Finn Wolfhard, who you might recognize from Stranger Things and from It.
I thought about Finn pretty hard, actually. Yeah. I could definitely see that. He definitely has the star power.
I feel like it'd be a good match, not just because of age, but he's got the acting chops. If we're going to transplant drawn Amuro onto a live-action casting screen, it'd be visually a close match. So he was my pick. I think he'd do a pretty good job.
Finn is 17, which is a pretty good middle ground. So that could definitely work. We're going to see as we go through a lot of these characters that if you want them all to maintain their sort of relationships with each other and how they interact, you're going to have to either age all of them up by the same amount or keep them all really low, right? Because there's sort of love interest between Amuro, Frau, Sayla. You can't have one of them being 35 and the other one being 17.
Maybe so we'll get to that part of the casting situation later.
Yeah, I think Finn's a great realistic choice. Although I think my choice is realistic as well. But so I think those are good. But again, I don't know that either of us think there's a standout. There's your Amuro Ray, right?
This is an anime going to a live action movie. I don't think there's a standout. Anybody almost. Well, one character I feel like is a standout to me, but we'll see what you think when we get to him.
Yeah. All right.
So
let's finish off the Federation. Let's save Char. Okay. Did you do anyone for Frau or no?
I didn't do Frau, and no disrespect to Frau, but I've always felt like in the show that to an extent she's a forgettable character.
I mean, she ends up marrying Hayato.
No disrespect to Frau, but Hayato was more important than Frau if you think about it. She had more of a role in the ship and their survival. But no, I did not devote time to casting Frau. I apologize to all the Frau fans.
The Frau fans.
Yeah, you can burn me in the comments if you want, but what can I say? Victory for Zia.
So I chose an actress named Isabel Oliver Marcus.
Okay. Where have you seen
I don't
her?
really know much about her. Just on looks alone, I thought she would be a good Frau. She's 20. In the story, Frau is supposed to be 15. So she's supposed to be the same age as Amuro. So take it or leave it. From the internet, there was one user on Reddit who had a whole bunch of really good picks, and his name is Heinaleluja, like Heineken combined with Hallelujah. I don't know.
Okay.
For Frau, he said Abigail Breslin. So she was Little Miss Sunshine. She was also in Zombieland. She's 24 now. So that would put her a reasonable age for this role. But again, Frau, she probably won't make it to the film if I'm a betting man.
If you're casting it, there's no way.
How about Captain Bright, our old pal Bright Noah?
The one person that jumped out at me for this, and I think he would kill it in a good, well, he'll crush it in a good way. He'd do amazing. And coming off his current role, this would be him playing against type. So that's also why I think it'd be a good fit for him. And that would be Adam Driver.
Interesting.
Yeah, he's like 36 or something, but they can up age Bright Noah, an officer of low age. So he'd be in his, maybe mid 20s.
Yeah, I agree. I think Bright would be someone that would be really easy to age up. You
Right.
wouldn't get any flack for that. My pick for Bright was Milo Ventimiglia.
Milo Ventimiglia. Oh,
I think he looks like Bright. He was Peter from Heroes, and now he's in This Is Us.
you know what? I feel like he might have missed his chance because I think age-wise, he's just a little up there. He's like
He's 42.
He's dad age. He's not like the big brother of the ship age.
That's true. Yeah, if you don't want, I guess if you don't want him to be dad age and you want him to be closer to 30, yeah, he's maybe a little too old.
We'll go with Milo Ventimiglia from Heroes. Back when that show was on. There.
Yeah.
Problem solved.
The internet, I've seen a lot of people say Keanu Reeves.
No, we can't because of the age. I mean,
again, I agree. Yeah.
I think people maybe in their mind, like, Bill and Ted Keanu Reeves, but the Keanu Reeves now wouldn't work. No.
Yeah, agree.
I can see him in another role that I'll say that later.
Okay. Yeah, if this was Point Break Keanu, yeah, put him in there. But Keanu, he's 55 now, even though he looks great in John Wick. I think he's too old for Captain Bright.
Right. I mean, he hasn't aged much, especially compared to a lot of people. There's all the memes about, him being immortal and all that and showing up in paintings throughout time. But no, we know he's an older man. He would not be a young officer on any ship. And it wouldn't work. No.
Okay, how about did you do Hayato or Kai?
I didn't do Hayato or Kai. Okay, they're pretty useful guys, but I feel like within a movie, they should not get much screen time. They should almost be like maybe comic relief or witty banter on the radio channel. Other than that, we really can't spend too much time with them since we're so limited in a movie.
Their parts could be ripe to be replaced with female, secondary characters based on what we talked about earlier.
Kai could be a girl's name.
Yeah. So for Hayato, I chose Jacob Batalon. Or Batal, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He plays Ned Leeds in the new Spider-Man films, so he's Peter's best friend.
Oh.
I don't know. He just struck me as a Hayato for some reason.
He does seem like a Hayato, yeah.
He seems like one of those guys that's just never the main character, but he always does a lot of work.
Yeah, he's a character actor, right?
Right, yeah. So for Kai, I chose Joe Keery. So I guess I should say Hayato's supposed to be 15 and Kai is supposed to be 18. Jacob Batalon, he's 23, and Joe Keery is 28. So Joe Keery he plays Steve in Stranger Things.
Oh God, he's such a Kai.
Yeah, right. So you need someone who's just he can just be super obnoxious if he really wants to. I feel like he could play a good Kai.
Definitely, yeah. Especially after playing his character in Stranger Things.
The same guy on Reddit, Heinaleluja, he suggested Evan Peters. He was the guy who played Quicksilver in Fox's X-Men films, and I could see that as well. I think that's similar to the Joe Keery pick.
Evan Peters is like so versatile. Like he's been in almost every season of that American Horror Story show. I haven't seen them all, but the ones I have seen, he's really, really good in it.
The only thing with Evan Peters is he's 33 now.
Yeah.
And if they make this movie in 2 years, he's going to be 35. I don't know if he can pass for a teenager anymore at 35. Whereas Steve from Stranger Things, he's been masquerading as a teenager for the last 2 years. So I think I can believe that more, but I don't know.
I agree. Evan Peters, yeah, he looks young for his age, but I don't know. I'd rather go with Joseph Keery.
might be a Milo Ventimiglia situation.
There you go. Exactly. He got Milo.
Yeah, I couldn't come up with anyone from Mirai.
No, I did not.
Yeah.
Okay, and I apologize to our listeners, but anybody I deemed unimportant to like the overall story that you could cram into 2 hours, I just didn't bother casting because I didn't think it would be much use. I mean, you could almost get somebody new, and this was their kind of breakout role, you know? If you were a minor side character in Gundam, you're going to be an even more minor character in the live action movie because there'll be no time.
Yeah, for sure. Half of these characters won't make it to the film. Let's just say
let's go to someone important. Okay.
Okay. How about Sayla?
Exactly, Sayla. Who did you cast as Sayla, Brian?
I could not find a good Sayla. I need someone that can portray being a really skilled pilot, but they also need to be very, I don't know, Sayla always struck me as very timid, right? She would point the gun at Char, but she wouldn't shoot at him. She never became like as deadly as Amuro or Char. So right. I needed someone that could portray that timidness, and I guess I just don't know enough actresses that are that age. She's supposed to be 17.
Yeah. Well, do you know any actresses who could play a character that's 17?
So I tried to go on looks alone, and I chose Catherine Newton. She's 23. She was the girl in Detective Pikachu. She was the journalist. So it would be a little bit different of a tone for her. But there is one particular picture of Sayla which I thought she really looked like. So,
that's actually a pretty good pick. I think she could do that role visually. But I think I went up to you. If I may say so myself, sir.
Do it. Give it. Yeah.
Okay. This actress can play very vulnerable, very compassionate and kind, and I think she just looks like she could be visually a match for Sayla, and that's Elle Fanning. Age-wise, she's only 22, which is good enough to be cast, and she's played such great roles. She was in The Neon Demon, which is this great psychological thriller movie you should see. And most recently, you'd probably recognize her if you watch Disney films from Maleficent, where she played Princess Aurora. So she's, very much like Sayla was more or less a Princess of Xeon. I think she could definitely pull off a Sayla mass on the screen.
Yeah, I'm looking at her now, and I agree. I think you got me on that one. So I'm now on the Elle Fanning boat, although I still think Catherine Newton would do a good job.
Yeah.
no offense to Catherine Newton.
Yeah, no offense, but I don't know. If we had to choose between the two, I'd throw my vote in for Elle Fanning and give mean looks to anybody that didn't. I'd be like, what are you doing? We found the right actress.
I could not figure out a good Slegger, but what I did find when researching it was that Tomino originally wanted Slegger, his direction to the designer or whoever, was that Slegger should look like Sylvester Stallone in Rocky.
Wow. Huh.
So I could kind of see that. He doesn't look exactly like that in the end product, but similar. He's got that swagger, right?
Does that mean we need to get like Michael B. Jordan? Since he's inherited pretty much Rocky's role in the movie.
Yeah.
We'll just change the character to that degree.
Yeah. Who was like the dumb blonde guy in Starship Troopers? That was like one of the buddies.
Oh, Gary Busey's son.
Yeah. He could be Slegger.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Yeah. I assume you did not do Lieutenant Matilda.
No,
we don't have time for that in the movie. But I thought.
Plus, spoiler alert.
Agreed.
She doesn't make it to the end of the show.
It's true. She does not make it. But I did think that Ellen Page looks a lot like Lieutenant Matilda.
Actually, I think you're right. Oh God, that'd be great too, because she can really play like authoritative when she needs to be, but also very compassionate. I can see her in a Federation uniform, like helping people and ultimately doing what she needed to do.
Yeah, I feel like she has that face that she would show the audience as she's dying that elicits that emotional response.
Yeah.
That we need, right?
Oh my God, spoilers.
Yeah, spoilers. Those black tri-stars. Did you do General Rebel?
No, he would play such a small role.
I think you need a General Rebel though at some point in the movie.
See, at this point, it's hard to encapsulate what's actually going to be in the film because that determines what characters would show up.
Of course.
If we're going to actually see Xeon leadership and Federation leadership, then yeah, seeing those people is going to be pretty important. They're going to play pretty big roles if there's sequels and all that. But if this is going to be a 2-hour movie taking place at the colony during the Gundam hijacking attempt, no, we don't really need to see the leaders at all. This needs to be almost a self-contained military operation story with civilians and the teenagers pulled into it. in that case, just bringing in the leaders and the political background would be pretty dry and probably take away from the story.
Yeah, I mean, I somewhat agree. That said, Honolulu's choices for General Rebel were pretty great. He had Russell Crowe or Jeff Bridges. I mean, Jeff Bridges is 70 now, but I could definitely see Russell Crowe with a big gray beard.
I'll double down on Russell Crowe because he was great in Gladiator. Not that General Rebel does a lot of fighting. He can have a very commanding attitude as an officer. And Jeff Bridges, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I'd feel too laid back seeing him on screen. Like he'd be the fleet officer that like drinks during combat or something, and he has a White Russian as he gives orders to like
After Gihren's speech, that's when he says, "That's just like your opinion, man."
Yeah, he just leans back and like, "Wow, far out, man.
You got a lot of ideas."
Yeah.
that could almost
Admiral
be,
dude.
Yeah, that could be its own parody movie in and of itself.
Yeah, just the dude watching the 1 year war happen from like his home in Los Angeles.
All right, let's do maybe the most important character equal to Amuro Ray, who is Char Aznavour. Hit me with your Char Aznavour.
Okay. I have two. So my first pick was Tom Holland. Not only do I think he'd kind of maybe jump at the chance to play against type coming off of Spider-Man, this would be a chance for him to show his acting chops as a villain, and I think he'd be really great at it. He's in his 20s, but he can definitely play. Oh God, how old was Char?
Char was 19 in the original film or the original series, but he definitely felt older than that. Like a lot of characters, I would say.
Could have been in his low 20s if they didn't tell us. Yeah, I can see Tom Holland maybe grows out the hair, dyes it blonde, or they slap on a blonde wig. It'll work. My other choice was Ty Sheridan, who you might recognize from Ready Player One, and also he was in the X-Men First Class movies as Cyclops. I just picked him because he's almost the go-to guy for like if you put like a mask on somebody. The logic I heard is because his nose and his lips are kind of unique, or I don't know, are distinct. So since Char's going to be behind a mask almost the whole movie, I imagine, I could see them like revealing at the end or something, and then that's a cliffhanger. He would probably be in the mask for almost the entire movie, so might as well have somebody that's used to being in masks and not showing his eyes and can act.
That's actually probably better than who I came up with.
Come on, Brian.
Ty Sheridan is 23. I think that's a pretty perfect casting. So like you said, you need someone that looks good in a mask for this. So you have to have that strong chin, I guess. I think he has that. He has the right build for Char. I think Tom Holland's a little too small.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm not sure their heights.
Although Ty Sheridan is only 5'7" too. So wow, look at that. Does that mean Tom Holland is actually taller?
It's Hollywood. They can make them. They'll film the camera and make you stand on a soapbox.
That's true. Yeah. Tom Holland is taller than Ty Sheridan. Imagine that.
How tall is Tom Holland?
He's 5'8".
Oh, he got beaten by an inch.
Yeah, by an inch. I guess that's a lot in Hollywood. Yeah. Okay, I can be down with Ty Sheridan. I think that's good. That's a good pick. It's also good justification. My wish list was either young Brad Pitt or young Ryan Gosling. And then when I couldn't have those,
yeah. I was about to say, Brian, you fell into like the Keanu Reeves trap where like we cast people from like their past life, like from years ago when we want them now.
Yeah. If they wanted to go with like a pretty boy actor, there's this actor named Timothée Chalamet.
Ah, yeah.
I could see them picking him. He has long hair. He's 24, so it seems like we're circling that same 23, 24 age range. I don't know how he would look blonde, but for this, I think you need someone that looks good in blonde hair, both with blonde hair and with long hair. So I could see that. There's a guy named Alex Pettyfer. He's a little bit older. He's 30. He's a British actor.
He need to dye his hair.
It's like darker brown. Oh. He would definitely need to dye it, I think. Oh yeah, I mean he's probably played someone blonde. I don't know. I think look-wise, he has the strongest chin out of all these actors. But again, he's 30, so he's a little bit older. I feel like if he was playing Zeta Gundam Char, Quattro, he'd be perfect.
We're not there yet, Brian.
Yeah,
okay?
we're not there yet.
The actors we pick now might be in it for the long haul, for all we know.
That's true. And my other choice was Logan Schroyer. He's on This Is Us right now. He's a little bit younger.
I'm not sure I'm familiar with him.
I think he looks
okay.
I think he looks like Char, or he could be Char.
He could be a Char. Yeah, why not?
Those are my picks. I'll be honest. The internet wasn't great at this. I think I saw a lot of people saying you got to choose Chris Evans.
What for Char?
Yeah, and he just does not strike me as Char. Yeah.
If anything, a bright Noah. Let him get his normal hair color, and well, I feel like he wouldn't do that just because it'd be a little bit too close to being Captain America. Bright was such a straight shooter and such a supportive leader of the group. No, he can't be Char. He'd just be such a god. He'd overshadow Amuro. He's just kind of a big guy already, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
he's also 38, which I think that's too old. I think 30 is the top of the line here.
Even then, that might be too high. I'd stop at high 20s. Yeah.
Because although Char is obviously in the story for a very long time, in 0079, he definitely is still fairly youthful. And that's why I think he's dangerous, right? Because the Zabi family doesn't necessarily think he's going to, kill them all because he's only a 19-year-old.
Spoiler alert.
But another suggestion that a lot of people said was Michael Fassbender. And he's also too old. But I could see him working. I think people just choose good actor, right? I don't think they were thinking about age and how it relates to everyone else. But
who's a good shot in the movies? That Clint Eastwood. We should make him Char. We'll put 3D graphics on his face and de-age him.
Not even de-aging can do that.
Yeah, oh boy.
I could see Fassbender doing Char's speech from Char's Counterattack, but I can't see him. He's not 0079 Char in no.
No way.
Yeah.
We're not going to jump around. Yeah, listeners, we're not going to jump around throughout the UC, timeline and just start plopping actors like 30 years into the future. We need to start with the first movie and then we'll just move forward from there.
Yeah. Agree.
In the comments, please leave your cast, but just keep in mind this is 1 year war. All right.
Sit in your little director chair.
Don't jump ahead. Control yourself.
Chris's opinion was, first he said no one can play Char, which I somewhat agree with him.
You got me there.
And two, he suggested Mads Mikkelsen, which again I think is too old.
God, what is going on? You know what? We in all future castings, we're not gonna do anything where like it's beyond reasonable that would ever happen. I mean, we will not entertain these ideas.
I think Mads Mikkelsen is along the same lines as like Fassbender, where he's just too old. I think Mads Mikkelsen is 54. Let
me squeeze. Let me turn these lemons into lemonade. All right, the people that suggested this clearly know that they're good actors and want to see them in the movie. I'll give them that. I'll meet them halfway. You know who we can put Mads Mikkelsen up for, along with Fassbender as? Say it with me, Brian. Giran
Zabi. Yeah,
there you
sure.
go. Yeah. There you go. We both agree. Yeah, it was telepathic. We had telepathic agreement on this.
Yep.
They can absolutely read for Giran, and then we'll see who gets cast.
Yeah.
But there's just no way. No, listen to me. Listen to me, listeners. There is no way we're putting men over 40 into the role of Char Aznavour.
Especially if he's going to be dating Lala soon.
Not going to happen. Oh, God.
Yeah. All right, before we tackle the Zabi family, why don't we do Ramba Ral? Did you have anyone in mind for Ramba Ral?
I think we both do.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure.
So
I'm not sure how realistic it can be.
There is some great photoshopping going on where once I saw that, I didn't even bother picking someone else. So Ramba Ral is Nick Offerman from Parks and Recreation. There's some people have put his head on Ramba Ral's body and it looks perfect. Like, keep the mustache, that's it. You're done. He's Ramba Ral.
Absolutely. It looks so perfect too.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Same body type, probably same height.
Yeah.
Same facial structure, and oh god, it's such a good casting.
Yeah. The other good suggestion I did see on the internet from Hallelujah on Reddit, as well as someone named GM for Life, Tom Selleck. Kind of similar to Nick Offerman, where if you just put Tom Selleck's voice on Ramba Ral's body, it looks pretty close. So I'd be fine with either of those two, but I gotta be honest, I gotta go with Nick Offerman.
Yeah, let's be reasonable. Tom Selleck would never do a Gundam.
Probably not.
Give me a break. Nick Offerman, though, he's already in that sci-fi show Devs. I haven't seen it, but I heard good things, and I have a feeling he would be really great at this. Maybe an outlier that I don't think would be as good fit as Nick Offerman would be maybe if he wanted to be serious again, and he has done serious roles, just not a ton. Maybe Zach Galifianakis.
Wow.
But at the same time, the audience might be like, no, he's our comedy guy. We're gonna assume that Ramba's gonna start making jokes any minute now, and then it doesn't happen, and they'll be like, But I don't know. I was just going for sort of beard mustache people.
Yeah. Galifianakis tried to do serious again in Wrinkle in Time, and that didn't really.
I thought he was a funny character in that movie.
Oh, was he?
It, but
okay.
I think they're supposed to be. Yeah.
Okay. How about let's do the Zabi family.
Hit 'em.
Your bread and butter. Let's start with Garma. I could not figure out a good Garma. I gave up. However, Chris had what I consider to be the best suggestion. Wow. It's unrealistic. You're gonna hate it because it can't be done anymore. But once he said it, I couldn't think of anyone else doing it. So he wants emo Tobey Maguire from Spider-Man 3 to be Garma Zabi. Because if you take a picture of Garma Zabi and you put it next to that picture where he flips his hair, they look like the same person.
Oh my god.
It was amazing.
I agree. Yes, maybe a younger Tobey Maguire could have been a Garma Zabi, but I'm actually going to hijack, I think, Yershar, Timothy Chalamet, and put him as Garma because I don't know. I feel like he could pull off the look. Just their face looks pretty similar. Garma kind of has that upturned nose and kind of a more feminine face, I guess. I feel like it'd be a good match. And Timothy Chalamet is going to be in Dune, where he plays the main character, a good guy. In this, he'll be able a chance to play an antagonist. So I feel like it'd be a good swap for him to switch things up.
I could see that. That would put him pretty close in age to some of the other people that we suggested for Char. So Ty Sheridan and Logan Troyer, and they are supposed to be school buddies, basically.
Frenemies.
So yeah.
If you watch Origin, they're frenemies by definition.
I think those two would go well. So I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
I think it's a good pick. Which Zabi you want to do next?
Let's do Dozel. Who's your Dozel, Brian?
Oh man. I thought Dozel was pretty hard. I eventually settled on. I used one person twice, and this is one of them.
Ooh.
I used Patrick Warburton twice.
Patrick Warburton. Wow.
Yeah. If you're not familiar with Patrick Warburton, he played Putty on Seinfeld, and he also played the Tick.
Yeah, I could see it, but my issue is like the age. Oh, also, if you watch Disney, he was a Kronk in like the Emperor's New Groove or the Emperor's New School or whatever.
Yeah, so on the age,
he's definitely got the size. I mean, he's like over 6 foot.
Yeah, I was going for size and like facial structure here. Okay, Dozel has a very unique look. He's a very imposing individual, but he also has a lot of gravitas to him. Like when you see Dozel, you know he knows what he's doing. With a lot of the Zabi family, well, for the most part, with the Zabi family, I think they were sort of underaged in the show. They all look.
Not you mention it.
Yeah, they all look much older than they are supposed to be.
The stress of leading a fascist space empire.
It really takes its toll. Do you know how old Dozel's supposed to be in 0079?
I'm gonna shoot and say he was in his late 20s, right?
Yeah, he's 28. But to be honest, on screen, I think he looks late 40s.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And Patrick Warburton's 55. My concern would be he might just be seen as too funny. I mean, his voice is pretty. it's
pretty almost iconic. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
He's a voice actor. If you watch Family Guy, I think he's the voice of Joe.
That makes sense. I think that's got to be right. Yeah.
My character, who I think has only improved in every role that we've seen him, and man, he's so good. I'm so excited to see him in Dune. He had a very small but memorable role in Blade Runner 2049, and he's definitely got a big size. It's Dave Bautista.
I thought of that one too.
Yeah, I just think, God, you just throw him in that green uniform and we have Dozel, It's pretty spot on, I would think. He can definitely do the yelling that Dozel does, and Dave Bautista's done some comedy too, so he can do a lot of the more heartwarming scenes that Dolzo does when he's with his family or getting emotional about his men and things like that.
Yeah, he definitely has a physical imposing presence as well, which I think you need for Dolzo.
Yeah, I'm not sure on his height, but it's Hollywood. We can make him look. I forgot what height Dolzo is. Dolzo's like an insane height, right? He's like over 7 or something like that.
I mean, he's big.
He's obviously the tallest one in the Zabi family. Almost unnaturally tall.
Yeah, I wonder if they list his height.
Are we to assume Mrs. Zabi was a tall woman? Because if you look at Dagwin, he doesn't seem like that big of a guy.
Well, maybe Dagwin was like taller in his younger days, right? Maybe he's shrunk a little bit.
Space football days.
Yeah.
When he was a linebacker.
I don't see any height stats readily available for Dolzo. Okay. I'm sure they're out there, but yeah, he's a Hulk of a man for sure.
He may be the biggest man in all of Gundam.
I can't think of a bigger one. All right, which Zabi next?
Let's do Kycilia. Why not?
Kycilia. All right. She's another one where she's only 27, but I think she looks much older in the series. Trying to stick to that 27, I went with Karen Gillan. She plays Nebula in the Marvel films, and she has naturally red hair. Kycilia, you need someone that is very authoritative and can do a lot of yelling. And Karen Gillan did that as Nebula, so I feel like she has the anger necessary to be Kycilia and the ruthlessness, so that's why she's a good fit to me.
God, now that you mention it, she has some acting chops. Goodness, pretty underrated in the MCU. I mean,
Nebula she did a lot of
Nebula doesn't get a heavy lifting. Yeah, she doesn't get a ton of screen time, but all her scenes are pretty memorable, and when she's on screen, just when she acts, like it has a lot of strength to it. We'll look back, underrated.
Yeah, and she's super important to a lot of the plot in the two last Avengers games for sure.
Got to turn that webcam off in your eyeball. Gave away the whole plan.
Yeah. So some of the other suggestions that the internet had were good, but again, they were all the suggestions that Isaac hates, where they were too old. So some users on Reddit, Android Raptor suggested Gillian Anderson from X-Files.
Okay, maybe years ago, sure.
Yeah, so she's 51 now. If you wanted to play an older Kycilia, I think that's great. She definitely looks the part. A user named Jaguar DeSaul suggested Maggie Smith in the 1970s, and I had no idea who Maggie Smith was. But if you go back and look at Maggie Smith in the 1970s, she looks like Kycilia Zabi.
Professor McGonagall. God.
Look at her younger photos.
Let me pull this up at this very moment. Oh wow.
See, I'm telling you, there's a Kycilia in there.
Wow. Okay, you got me there. I'll leave my own words.
Yeah.
Goodness.
Chris had a similar suggestion. He suggested someone, an actress named Elizabeth Perkins. I think she's 59, so she's way too old now, but she definitely looks like Kycilia.
Did the internet know that we have to cast people for a movie that's in production? I feel like
no, they did not.
I feel like the teacher who everybody in class got an F and didn't understand what we were doing.
Again,
the whole class failed.
I am only bringing up the ones that I felt were good suggestions, even though they're not possible. I am leaving. There were a lot that were age appropriate, but maybe I just was I don't see it. Like, for example, someone wanted John Boyega as Bright Noah, and I was just I don't get that one at all.
No, we'll move on.
Yeah. No, someone said Donald Glover for Amuro, and I was I don't get it. I don't see it.
No, I don't see that either. Yeah. But listeners, Google Maggie Smith Young. Man, that is Kycilia. If only they knew back then.
That is the sound of regret in Isaac's voice.
Yeah, that's victory for Xeon. Let me go to my pick.
Yep.
Okay, I have 3. I'm going to kind of betray my own statements over this last hour. I feel like a young Julianne Moore would have killed it. She would have been amazing as Kycilia, especially since she's cast a lot in roles as, sort of a villain or threatening, powerful roles.
I can see that.
Said, but right now, I don't feel like age-wise it would be a good match.
Yeah, so Julianne Moore, she's 59.
Not happening.
You could just age up the entire Zabi family. That's the part, though, that I was talking about earlier, where you can't have 2 of the family that are 60 and one of the family that's 20, right?
Right.
If you're going to maintain that family unit, I mean, I guess you could change the relationships a bit, but we're doing this assuming that you keep the family together.
Okay, my other two that are neck and neck, and they're oftentimes confused for each other. One of them you've seen in Black Mirror, and also, she was in the Jurassic World movies pretty recently. She is Bryce Dallas Howard. No need to dye her hair. It's already there. I feel like she's got very good acting skills. The other choice that's neck and neck would be Jessica Chastain, who I think as far as all the actresses that I'm aware of presently, she looks the most Kaicilia Zabi. She was in The Help. She was in It, Chapter 2, Zero Dark 30, and she was a villain in Dark Phoenix, if you watched that X-Men movie, Dark Phoenix.
I could definitely see Chastain doing it.
And as far as concern for her age, because she is older than I thought she was, she does not look her age at all, I feel like. And maybe I'm being a generous fan of her or whatever. But I feel like, you could...
You're revealing yourself.
She could passibly be... she could passibly be in her low 30s, I think.
Yes.
And in Kaicilia's defense, she's in a mask half the time.
Right, that's
right.
It looks like Jessica Chastain is 43 and Bryce Dallas Howard is 39. So they're pretty close in age. I agree. They do look similar. And like you said, they do get mistaken.
Yeah.
Even I think Ron Howard said that he mistook Jessica Chastain for his daughter.
How?
I think it was from behind.
Oh, okay. I hope so.
Yeah. So Jessica Chastain, she was in Zero Dark 30. That definitely had the intensity that I think you need to be Kaicilia. So I think that's a good pick. I'm on board with that.
There you go.
All right, let's do who we got left.
We got the two male brains of the operation, Dagwin, and we got Giran.
All right, let's leave Giran for last. Let's do Dagwin. So this was the suggestion given to me by our friend, and he suggested Ed Asner. And to me, that's a dead ringer for Dagwin sitting in that chair.
Okay. You got me in terms of like the temperament, right? Ed Asner could definitely play it. But age-wise, Ed Asner is too old. I know Dagwin's an old man, but Ed Asner is like...
Ed Asner is 90.
I'm not sure he can walk anymore.
Dagwin Zabi looked like he was about to keel over at any second.
Dagwin Zabi is a very lumpy, wrinkly old man. But I don't think Dagwin's even over 70. I think he's in like his low 60s. He's just overweight and not well kept together.
I felt he looked older.
I agree.
So
yeah.
I'm sticking with Ed Asner. But
really, you're joining our friend.
I am in solidarity for Ed Asner for sure. So GM for life on Reddit, he suggested William Shatner, which I could see.
No,
I don't think I'd be able to take it seriously. So I gotta decline.
Can you imagine him talking? Are you out of your mind? There's people in those colonies. You gotta be stopped. Oh God. No.
Yeah.
Join me in the comments. A resounding no for William Shatner in Gundam. I don't care if we're in space. I don't care if we're shooting lasers at each other and flying around. No, he's not happening.
All right, hit me with your Dagwin.
Okay, I think I got a couple. One of them I know can definitely bring sort of the intelligence of Dagwin. They might have to put him in a bit of a fat suit to a degree. Anthony Hopkins would be able to work in it.
That's a great one. But he's really old too.
Yeah, but he's not Ed Asner old. Okay.
Hold on.
Old. Okay.
Anthony Hopkins is 82.
All right.
You've only got me beat by 8 years, pal.
All right. Those 8 years mean a lot. After that certain age. All right.
That's fair.
But we'll put that to the side. I agree. Okay. It's a strong choice, but
Hopkins is good. Yep.
And this next choice, I feel like, just think of his face. I'm about to say his name. Just prepare yourself. But when I say his name, visualize his face. Visualize him wearing Dagwin's glasses and his head shaved. And we're pretty much there once you throw him in that uniform that Dagwin runs around. Well, not runs around, but sits around in.
Yep.
Robert De Niro. He's got the nose. He's got the facial structure. He's got like those folds and like pretty much the weight at this point. He's just kind of a, no disrespect, Mr. De Niro, but he's got the kind of old man lumps that Dagwin has. You shave that head or put a skull cap on and then the glasses, and we're at Daegwin, man. He's
Okay.
there. Yeah.
I could definitely get on board with that. I think that's probably a more realistic choice than the
And-
rest of what we've said.
And in a lot of roles, maybe lately or that I've seen lately with Robert De Niro, he really he does a lot of dramatic scenes where he's maybe talking to somebody in his family and they're having intense conversation, and or he gets emotional or even scolding, and that's pretty much what he does to a certain extent after a few episodes towards the later part of the Gundam series. It's just him kind of scolding Giran, right? And
Yeah,
relatively disappointed with the plot of the war and how things have ended up for him and his family. So
yeah, I think realistically, if Daegwin was to make it into the movie, he makes it in for 2 scenes. You get an introduction to Daegwin when he either talks to Giran or Cassilia, and espouses some sort of philosophy, like you said, maybe dissatisfaction, and that's where we learn there's maybe a desire to oust him a little bit. And then you get another scene, maybe he's not even in it, which we just learn of his death somehow.
Oh, you're switching things up, Brian. Goodness.
I don't know that he makes it in the film that much more.
No, I would be very surprised if he's in the film. Maybe referred, but even then, that's not necessary. We throughout the show, as important as Daegwin was to Zeon, we almost never hear like battle cries in his honor, or nobody ever evokes Daegwin. God, people were more loyal to Giran than Daegwin, it seems like, in the end.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He was my Daegwin choice, and I feel like he'd be really good. I'm not sure what his policy is as he's aged, as far as what he wants to devote and put into acting still, but Daegwin kind of sits in a chair for all of his scenes. So it'd be just him reading lines, or he didn't even have to memorize them. He can just read them on cards and say what Daegwin says.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice. And
Thanks.
he would be even more likely to do it if maybe he only had to appear in a very quick scene.
Yeah, a meeting, and then that's about it.
I have a thought since you brought up the glasses. Going back to the ages here. So Daegwin is supposed to be 62. De Niro is 76.
Okay.
Ed Asner is 90. Anthony Hopkins is 82. So everyone we suggested is way older than Daegwin's supposed to be. What do you think about someone who is the right age at 64, who we all know how he looks in a shaved head, Bryan Cranston?
Bryan Cranston as Daegwin? Are we going to put him in a fat suit? Because Bryan Cranston's pretty fit. Are we going to have just a lean Daegwin?
That's true. He definitely doesn't have the weight for it. And it also might be a bad idea because then everyone's just going to think he's Heisenberg if he's bald again. So maybe I'll take that suggestion back.
We're going to get a lot of crossover Gundam Breaking Bad memes.
Yeah. Daegwin is the one who knocks.
Yeah. Walter White knocking, and then they just show like the colony falling.
Yeah, but Cranston's 64, so he's older than Daegwin is supposed to be.
But he's in great shape compared to Daegwin.
Daegwin, I'm telling you, one foot in the grave. Daegwin has.
I was reading some conjecture or fan discussion about why Daegwin is in such bad shape, and the prevailing theory that I read on a forum was Daegwin, given his age and the fact that the war takes place in 0079, he was literally around for when the first colonies were being built, so he was probably growing up, or at least working and living in conditions that were zero gravity, probably for longer than he should have been. So that took a toll on his body. And so what? Side 3 has gravity now, but maybe when he was a child or a teenager, he wasn't given the proper parameters his body needed growing up during an age where humans are colonizing space. So that was the explanation for why he's not in the greatest of shape. Plus, I mean, in his defense, he lost his wife at some point, right? We have no idea what happened to her. Mrs. Zombie, either she left him or she's dead.
I don't think they've ever told us, right?
I'd love to find out. Side story waiting. Do we even know if all the kids are from the same woman? Ooh, how dare you say that how dare you say that in Side 3? Yeah, who knows where she is, or if they're all from the same mother. I would assume so. Yeah, that's an interesting plot thread. Maybe we can ask somebody one day on the podcast that would be in the know.
We'll get Tamino in here.
Yeah.
Hey, where's
hey,
Mrs.
we got one question. Where's Mrs. Zombie?
Where's she at?
She on Earth. She ran away with a handsome Federation officer, and that made an inferiority complex in Dagwin. That's what started this all.
That's why he's so mad.
I'm gonna drop a colony on that damn planet.
Maybe she worked for the Federation, and this whole thing was just a divorce.
Her last name's British, and he named the operation. Felicity British, I will kill you.
All right, and we've reached maybe the most important Zabi member, Giran Zabi. So I'll be frank, I could not figure out a Giran Zabi because Giran is only supposed to be 35. To me, in the series, he was like 50.
But I put him in his 40s.
But to me, you have one job as Giran, and that's to give that speech.
Pretty much, or to just come off as someone that's like top level scheming, big picture scheming.
So there was a guy named Android Raptor on Reddit. He suggested Mads Mikkelsen.
Okay.
Which we just talked about earlier. Is
possibly a little too old, but
probably a little too old. Yeah. I think that's the right vein of thinking. And then Haineluya, also from Reddit, he or she suggested Christian Bale, which
wow,
I could see that.
Oh, that'd be pretty damn good. You know what? We've seen Christian Bale in American Psycho, and not that was too recent. And in the Batman movies with more or less slicked back hair, and that is dead ringer for Giran style. Yeah, that's a pretty good pick. I think that.
Yeah, I think he could give that speech.
Absolutely, yeah, and he can give the look. He's played villains before. He can give the look that's pretty sinister and intelligent. Yeah, that could work definitely.
And he's 46, so I think he's probably the oldest we want to go on this, I would imagine.
Yeah,
because you don't want him to be like Degwin is the old man, right? We don't want to have two old men. So, all right, who's your Giran?
Okay, well, I kind of have more than one pick. You mentioned somebody that I thought would be a good pick, actually, now that I think about it. And he's got his, immortality working in our favor, and that's Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves has kind of done like a raspy, sinister voice. Not in too many. He wasn't a villain in too many movies. The only one I've seen him recently was Neon Demon, where he was like this very sleazy motel owner. But he can come off as, sinister when he wants to. I think he could pull it off with slick back hair. What do you think?
It's not one I've thought of. I'd have to think about that one. I don't want to say he can't do it. I would like to see him try. I don't think I've ever seen him be the villain, so I'm not sure.
It's pretty rare. He was also a serial killer in like a few movies, like at the turn of the century or whatever. Okay, this next choice, he's gonna have to shave his beard, but he's really good right now as a villain in a Hulu series called Handmaid's Tale, and he's played villains in the past too. But he pretty much, I think, looks the part spot on. Would be Joseph Fiennes. Ray Fiennes' brother. Ray Fiennes plays Voldemort. This is his brother, Joseph Fiennes.
I did not know he had a brother.
Yeah, he does.
Look at that.
Age-wise, yeah, he's a little up there, but I feel like if you take away the beard, he'll lose some age.
He's 49. I think
that's what beards do. Yeah,
that's acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at him right now. I think he could do it for sure. Yeah. He has that look where, because I feel like when Giran walks on the screen, he's evil.
Yeah, sophisticated. He comes out as sophisticated in a lot of roles too. He's very eloquent. He's an English actor for anyone that's not familiar with him, so we know he'd be very well trained. And then my final choice, who's also an English actor or from the UK. A lot of the times he plays heroes, protagonists. He's been in comedies too, but he's been around for a while, and I think he'd be very good at this role. He was most recently the villain in the last King Arthur movie, and that is Jude Law.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Jude Law.
He could play a very cerebral character like Giran.
Yeah, you know what? That might be my favorite pick.
Did I win the prize? Did I win the prize?
Yeah, I think you did.
I mean, he's also got the height. Age-wise, I'm going to say he's pretty close. He's not over 50.
He's 47.
Okay, all right. So
yeah,
he could definitely play a little bit younger. I think I'd be pretty happy with Jude Law in the position, though. That King Arthur movie wasn't too great, but Jude Law kind of stole the scenes that he was in as the villain. So check it out if you can, just for Jude Law. And he was pretty much a Garen, more or less. He was very much a scheming emperor.
I really like that one.
Thanks.
I think that's a good one.
Face wise, he looks pretty close to the drawn Garen, right?
Yeah. No, you're right. I do. And then if you just slick back his hair,
slick back the hair, make it purple.
He has that face where he's
up to something.
Yeah, conniving maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I like that's a good one.
Thanks.
I think that rounds out the major characters. There are a few other ones I wanted to touch on. One I did want to ask you about because I know he's like your favorite character is Anavel Gato.
Anavel Gato. Man. Wow. Who would I want for Anavel Gato?
So there was a compilation image. Someone said they did the whole 0083 cast. And I'm not going to go into the individual other picks, but they suggested Sean Brosnan, which looks wise, I could see that. I don't really know much about Sean Brosnan. He's the son of Pierce Brosnan. He's 36.
Naturally.
I don't know how old Gato is supposed to be, but I think he's 30s at the max, right?
You know what? No disrespect to the person that pushed Sean Brosnan's name forward, and no disrespect to you either, Mr. Sean Brosnan, but I don't think he looks like Gato. He looks like a man older than his age, if I may say that. Maybe it's the facial hair, maybe it's his hairline or his current hairstyle, but what I'm looking at right now does not say Gato. Gato has to be relatively young because he's an ace pilot, I think. Yeah, just given Nina's age and.
Yeah, I do think his goatee makes him look old.
Yeah.
There's one picture of him on IMDb, which I thought, okay.
Oh, I think I know which one you're talking about. He's got long hair, right?
Yeah, black and white one.
Yeah.
I don't know how long ago that was taken. But to me, that looks like Gato.
This looks like an early 2000s picture.
Okay, if it's that old, then yeah, we
if we pull that Sean Brosnan into this movie, yeah, that's a dead ringer for Gato. He would be the spitting image of Gato. He would not be able to go down the street in Japan without being mobbed by fans with their glued on sideburns. There's Gato sideburns.
Our friend Chris, he casted the entire 8th MS team.
Of course he did.
That's his favorite series.
Let me guess. He used actors that are like in their 70s. And
No,
60s.
No, he did not. He used current actors. So for Shiro, he said Tom Holland. For
Shiro's Japanese.
For Mikkel, he said Tom Holland with a wig, which made me laugh. For Terry, he said The Rock, and for Karen, he chose Karen Gillan.
I don't know. I could almost see Karen being changed.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I can see her character being changed. Sanders,
I don't know. I hear Sanders' voice, and
yeah,
I can't picture someone else besides whoever does his voice.
That's true. Yeah.
So the last people I want to mention, I thought about doing some other people one person I couldn't think of was Lala, but I feel like they're just gonna grab really popular Bollywood actress or something.
She's really in the show so briefly, and I was never a big Lala fan. Sorry, listeners, if you're big Lala fans. But I feel like she didn't add a lot to the story. I mean, yes, her death was tragic, but by that point we had seen so much tragedy already that it didn't serve much of a purpose except, hey, Shar, you can lose people too. But he already knew that because he's masquerading the name Shar instead of his real name. So.
My prediction is, unless we go down the new type route in the film, that we probably won't see Lala. I also don't think there's room for Amuro to fall in love with Fraubo, Sayla, and Lala all in one movie.
Two, maybe.
You're only going to get 1, 2 max, and I think 2 would be overcrowding it.
Especially with everything else going on with Shar's secret identity and his own motives, and then Xeon, and then we have to deal with the Federation and corruption, and then there's a lot.
I think drama-wise, they're probably going to choose the Amuro Sayla angle since she's Shar's sister. Unfortunate probably for you Lala fans, but I don't know anything. This isn't my movie. Maybe she'll be one of the stars. But a series of characters I did cast, which are lovable buffoons, are the Black Tri-Stars.
Oh boy.
So I want you to pull up an image of the Black Tri-Stars so that I can...
Okay, let me pull it up. But while I do that, in their defense, I mean, Gaia is pretty put together, all right? He's a competent leader. Ortega might be the worst. Nash is pretty laid back too. He doesn't mouth off as much as Ortega.
All right. So let me know when you got a
It's
picture of
up.
him.
It's up. I'm
Okay.
looking at him.
So Ortega, I'm saying Patrick Warburton.
I can see that because it's a much more comical role, right?
Right. Yes, exactly. He was my original pick for Patrick Warburton. I subbed him in for Dozel later because I couldn't think of anyone.
I'm not sure on Ortega's age, but he's not a young man. I'm not sure how old he is, but yeah, I can see Warburton just kind of really going into it for the comedy and going for him. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's do Gaia. So Gaia, I think,
it.
looks like Andy Serkis. Just like when he was playing Claw in Black
Bit,
Panther.
yeah. Yeah, he's got like that same. Wow, their beads are pretty similar. Now that you mention it, like Claw.
Yeah.
Pretty similar facial hair. Yeah. Circus
Okay.
can do really good voices. I can see Circus being very, very much how Gaia's like kind of corrals his men, but at the same time, like if Char's around, he'll be professional to Char.
Yep. Exactly. And for MASH, I'm thinking John C. Riley.
John C. Oh God, that is perfect. I think I like your MASH the most.
So this is what I'm envisioning. I'm envisioning that. Let's be fair. These guys, they're not going to be in the film, but they might be in a scene or something. You know, where we're not going to get 5 episodes of the Black Tri-Stars like we did in the original series. But I imagine that there could be a scene, something to the effect of how we saw the original Guardians of the Galaxy in one of the Guardians movies, and it would just be fun to see those 3 people, you know, palling around for 20 seconds, and I just think it'd be hilarious, and it would be a great, you know, Easter egg for Gundam fans.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome. We could see them in like a hangar bay, or I don't know, see them in combat, and like we'll see the black mobile suits also, and then they're doing really good, and then I don't know, they get outperformed by like a red comet that comes out of nowhere, and we're like, whoa, they're doing even better.
Those are 3 actors that have a lot of personality, right?
Oh,
so
John C.
it
Riley
would be hilarious.
John C. Riley is MASH. All right, let's, in our dream world, assume this does happen. They would ideally want to give MASH more lines. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
If Gaia's like calm professional and Ortega's like really loudmouth, then let's make MASH like more sarcastic so he can have like comedy lines that would be good for John C. Riley.
Was MASH the one that didn't say anything? I think there was one, right, that like never had a line or something like that.
He doesn't really talk much. I mean, yeah, Ortega mouths off a lot and gets mad at Char, you know, when Char's around. They have history if you watch Origin, but yeah, Gaia is much more the cool, calm commander.
Anyway, I think it'd be fun to have a lovable band of Black Tri-Stars, because this is for American audiences, so there's probably going to be some comedic moments at least.
Yeah, you kind of see them as the henchmen in a way.
yeah, I feel like they would be the comic relief without,
because
we don't
zombies
want to
are running around.
Yeah. I mean, you obviously have to be careful on that comedic tone. So I just thought it was fun to cast the Black Tri-Stars.
I like that. That's pretty awesome. That was a good casting, Brian.
Thank you. Yeah, I didn't think of it. I don't have anyone else. I think we covered the vast majority of anyone who would remotely be in this film.
If anything, we covered more because we know they're going to get rid of a lot of side characters or just combine them. And important characters we won't even see in this movie and might not ever see.
I think we're lucky if 5 of these characters make it into the film.
Yeah, I can even see them getting rid of some of the zombies.
Oh, they'll streamline that for sure. I think they'll just say Degwin's dead from the beginning. Garma's superfluous. Giran will be the new Degwin.
The big bad.
Yeah, you don't need anyone else.
Dozel you can almost replace with just a burly admiral, a big bear of an admiral. Caecilia you should keep just so that she can be there for the final act where she needs to unravel everything. You
could even have Giran get in the big Zom himself, because you want that big bad to fight, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
Anyway, I don't think we're getting all 3 of them. So
no, there's no way.
Let alone Garma and Degwin, so they're probably gone.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah. Assuming they cut most of these people, who would be your biggest regret that they cut?
If we get rid of most of the zombies, I want us to keep Caecilia and Giran.
Yeah, I think they're the 2 most important.
It kind of doesn't work without them. On the Federation side, we can lose a Frau or we can lose a Sayla, but we can't lose both.
Agree, especially with their female direction. So
a lot of the male characters on the white base, forgettable, unimportant to the main beats of the story. aside from Amuro, we need a Frau or a Sayla. Maybe not necessarily both, but we need one for sure.
I think we're getting Amuro. I think we're getting Sayla. I think we're getting Char, Girin, Cassilia. I think everyone else questionable.
Everything else questionable, maybe mashed up together or completely new.
Oh, and we'll get Bright. We'll get Bright Noah.
Ah, there we go. We need the Bright Noah. Yeah, we need that fatherly figure for the good guys.
But beyond that, I'm not seeing it.
No, this can't and shouldn't be a complete cast match and character match for the show because it wouldn't work. There's not enough time.
We want it to be a good movie, so.
But it'll stand on its own. We're confident. We're optimistic, Brian.
Well, I think that's our cast. Overall, I think it's pretty good.
It's pretty damn good. Well, listeners, if you got your own cast, be sure to add it to the comments. And after you've done that, remember to subscribe.
See you next time.